Welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night. Guys, this has been a long anticipated episode where we discuss
Ooh.
Deadpool and Wolverine. The
Yeah.
the biggest drop Marvel's had since Endgame.
Yeah.
Unless I guess now you consider current news big drops because there
Oh.
was a very,
Ooh.
very big announcement at
And a big drop.
it was San Diego
San
Comic-Con?
Diego
Oh,
Comic
you're
Con.
talking Comic-Con.
The one that
I
I
thought you were
tried to
talking
get
about Joe
tickets to.
Biden dropping out of
Oh
the
yeah,
Oh
a
race.
yeah, that
big
too.
drop.
Well, we don't really care about international politics. We care more about
That's not
movie.
international, that's national, baby.
Yeah, but it's
I mean, it
international news.
affects
It's
international.
international
With
for other people.
with the
Yeah.
amount of people who are not in our country who follow the election,
Yeah.
according to my comment sections
Well,
on
and
Yeah.
also the
everything.
fact that
Yeah,
anyone outside of the US knows the name of the president of the
that's
US
true.
Yeah.
is pretty indicative that, that's an important
Okay,
position
I'm
internationally.
sorry. I totally derailed this
You
intro.
know who else is internationally known?
Who?
Whoa.
Robert Downey Jr. And it was
Whoa.
just announced that he has been cast to play Victor Von Doom in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. What are
Yes.
our
Ah.
thoughts about this? I think this is an important discussion to
I think it's a
have.
good intro. Yeah.
It's
Let's
very
let's
important.
just talk
Let's do
about
this.
current events and then we'll get into what you all
Deadpool
came here
Wolverine.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I was sitting home playing Super Smash Bros.
Where were you when the
Where was I
announcement?
when the announcement happened? And I was looking at a live feed update of
Yeah, yeah.
everything that came out. And I scroll down and they had like pictures of stuff. And I scroll down and I see just the logo. And they're like, Avengers Doomsday is the next Avengers movie. And I was like, sweet, that's awesome. And in
Yep.
that same piece of announcement, as just text, Robert Downey Jr. set to play Victor Von Doom. And I genuinely was like, that's a typo. And I
Yeah.
just ignored it
You're like, this
and
is
kept
the
playing.
onion.
And then I
Yeah,
looked
this is
back and I
parody.
saw all of the pictures of him and the videos of him.
Yeah.
And I out loud said multiple times, what does that mean? Just kind of to myself, because truly that's still a question that I would love to have answered,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what does that mean? How and why? And the thing is, as a normal casting decision, Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom, I think is a really cool casting
Oh
decision.
yeah, it's sick.
It's
Sure.
maybe not the route that I would have gone if I were a casting director, but I think it's really cool. However, we have
Interesting.
about 15 years of context that makes this choice insane
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so confusing and so upsetting and kind of like it, it just leaves you asking, what does that mean? And it leaves you asking why, because there are so many other actors who also would be great.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it just kind of, there's going to be logistically weird things to make the story make sense. It's going to require an insane amount of suspension of disbelief on the audience part if it is him playing Victor Von Doom. And if it's him playing some sort of Tony Stark variant, then I'm going to feel cheated out of a really cool normal Doom.
Yeah, that
So it feels like just a really weirdly dangerous choice. And there's a take that I've been seeing from people that's like, it's just a lazy and safe choice from Marvel to get audiences back. I disagree. I think this is as far from a safe choice as Marvel could make, because if this doesn't land, which I'm really nervous that it won't, I feel like it might be a pretty strong killing blow to the Marvel universe.
yeah.
So I don't know. The what gives me hope is that the Russo bros are back.
Russo
But
bros are
Yeah.
back.
and
And I
I
trust
Yes.
them. They've only made bangers for the
For
MCU.
the
yeah.
MCU, yeah.
But sorry, I've yapped for a
And
long
Arrested
time about
Development.
it, but
Yeah,
that
and Arrested
is
Development and Community. But
that's
what
gonna
about
be
you,
Yeah.
really good.
Lucas?
Well,
What do you
it's
think?
a very interesting situation because the Thanos line from Endgame is just oh so poignant.
Yeah,
Where he's
yeah.
Yeah.
like, you could not live with your failure, so where did it bring you? Back to me, baby. And I think that is kind of got a triple edge on it because the Russo brothers, since making Endgame, have had like 2 or 3, maybe 4 movies that they've made, and all of them have been critical failures.
Yeah.
They've all been streaming movies, so they haven't actually released in theaters.
We don't know if they're
So
flops
we
or
don't know
not,
if they're
but they
flops,
are,
but
because name one of them.
yeah,
Anyway,
name one of
continue.
the Gray
The Gray
Man
Man.
and
And
Cherry,
that
and
has
then
Ryan Gosling too, right?
Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
did
Chris
the
Evans.
Russo Bros did Cherry
Yep.
with
And Cherry has Tom
Tom?
Holland. I
Wow.
feel like they might have
The
done
one
a
with
big
the
show.
poster
names,
that
too.
glitched?
Yeah. And then there's a Chris
Wow.
Pratt movie they have coming out, I think this year or next year. So it's like
They
they've been
were
making
they were
stuff.
networking hard on the
Oh
set
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
of
yeah.
Big
Endgame
time.
and Infinity War.
Have
Yep.
you seen the Cherry poster glitch?
No.
I don't
The
think
first
so.
the first poster they released for Cherry, there was like a weird corrupted element that made it so that the title didn't come through right, and so it looks like it says Chirk, and it's just funny. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue, Lucas. So that's the
So
first edge of the sword.
first, yeah, that, and then
Sure.
also this is a triangle sword, very
Sorry,
popular.
I was doing what every listener was doing and Googling it
Did you
Yeah,
look
as
that
we were
up?
talking about.
It's pretty
Sure,
funny,
it's
huh?
funny. Yeah.
Everyone was like, "What is this movie called?"
Why? What is Shirk? I did not watch Cherry, and I did not watch The Gray Man, and I probably won't watch the other one that comes out unless people say it's good, which,
Yeah.
given their track record, could be. It's up in the air.
Yeah.
But
However,
with
they have a track record that's also very good at Marvel of
yeah,
4
exactly,
movies that
exactly.
are
So
all like
that's
some
yeah.
of the best ones.
Absolutely. 4 of the best ones, in my opinion. I mean, Winter Soldier is kind of like the high point where people are like, this is where they kind of shifted to being like, not just, oh, yeah, whatever, random movies. It's like, wow, these are actually like pretty cool. Civil War, the other 3 are huge event films.
Where was the shift back?
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Shift
Oh, yeah.
back? No, because that was before Endgame.
That was
I think the
before
shift-
Endgame, but that was when they showed that it was kind of like, we just got to
This
make
is what we
other
do.
movies in the meantime.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think like Black Widow, because there was such a huge
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of
That
time
is
in
such a
between
fair.
Endgame and Black Widow, and then it was like,
such a needless release too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that should have come out in between Infinity
Yeah.
War and Endgame instead of Captain Marvel.
They just did the wrong. They released it they made it at the wrong
Totally.
time.
They made it the wrong time. Yeah,
And
because
they
it's
also
like
And it
made
no
wasn't very
stakes.
good.
Yeah.
And it was totally forgettable. But then obviously the second edge of this tri-edged sword is Robert Downey Jr. Marvel
Yes.
pulling in 2 pieces and saying, hey, Russo's and Downey, we need you guys. We've been struggling. But then opposite side again, with the Russos to Marvel and the Marvels to Russos, that's kind of a back and forth. But with Downey, not so much, because he just won an Oscar. So he obviously has no obligation to do this. I mean, yes, he's getting $100 million for 2 movies.
While the
But-
Russos are getting 80, by the
80.
way.
80
Crazy.
plus residuals and things like that.
Yeah.
Bonuses, which I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. is going to have as well.
But Robert
The
Downey
budget
Jr.
for
as
these
one
movies
person is
Going to
topping
be insane.
Yeah,
what
the budget
Russos are sharing.
the budget for the directors and one actor is $180 million. So we haven't
Which is
even
almost the entire budget for Twisters.
yeah, and the budget of to be fair, the budget of Infinity War and Endgame I think was 500 million between the 2.
No,
Maybe
it
more.
was $1 billion total.
It was
It
$1
was
billion
500
budget.
It was
Oh, it was
500
500
million
each. Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
Because the actors alone, I think, were like 250
Yeah.
plus whatever else. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, and then half of the actor budget was Robert Downey Jr. for Infinity War and Endgame as well. So he's coming back to 2 more
Wow.
big old paydays. Context of the
him.
universe. Yeah,
We make
for him, man.
about
He won an
half a
Oscar.
million per episode of this podcast we do,
Yeah.
but we do
Mhm.
share that 3 ways. So
Yeah,
it
so it's
really
not
isn't
quite-
It's
super
a
lucrative.
drop in the bucket at that
it's
point.
barely anything
It's
compared
more
to
of a service, honestly.
our other side
Yeah.
hustles. So Downey coming back though, like within the context of the universe, on stage, they specifically said Victor Von Doom. So that makes me think it's not going to be a Tony Stark variant, because that would be miserable. That would be the worst stinking idea ever, and everyone would hate it. So Victor Von Doom, though, is great. That's a great replacement for Kang, especially if they're doing Secret Wars and all the iterations of Secret Wars. He's been the guy. And so my prediction is, and I feel like this probably will be what ends up happening because Matt Shackman has said, "Oh yeah, I've known that casting for a while." My prediction is that because the Fantastic Four of the upcoming film are going to come out of their universe into ours at some point for some reason. And so I think the prevalent theory is that Robert Downey Jr. is the Doctor Doom from that universe, and he's going to come over with them as well. And that's great. That works. That totally works. However, again, it's weird. I just I'm not sold on it. And I don't think I will be until for 2 years until I actually see it. He'll probably get a cameo in Fantastic Four if it is where he's coming from. But until we see him in context, a couple things I really hope they don't make it some dumb meta thing where the whole thing is like, oh, it looks just like Iron Man.
And yeah, Falcon's like,
can you believe it?
Tony again?
What's happening? Yeah,
Yeah.
what?
I don't know. I think the only case
they gotta
they
gotta reference it, but it can't be the whole thing.
Is Spider-Man. You know, someone with a very intimate relationship with this guy who just dealt with the multiverse and all these different villains. And, now is showing up and saying, what's going on with my mentor? I think that could be an interesting. There's some heart there, but
I just hope they give him the mangled face too, because in the comics, not like fully mangled where he's unrecognizable, but where it's like, okay, that's definitely not Tony Stark. Why not? Well, I would like it if they did do that, but they won't because they're paying $100 million for this guy.
That's true. They want to put him on
he's more than a voice and a guy in a suit. Like they're not going to Mandalorian this.
But the other thing, because I've been thinking,
I want them to, but
there are certain situations where something like this would have me so excited. For one, something that I think should have happened, and maybe it happened with one of the Pierce Brosnan movies, but I'm not sure. But James Bond, if Sean Connery had come back as a villain, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
But the reason is that's because the universe isn't so concrete like it is in Marvel. And every time there's a new one, it's kind of like a soft reboot a little bit. And so that would have felt really fun and referential while also not attacking the integrity of it. And so all I can hope is that maybe Fantastic Four kind of does a full universe reboot or something that makes it so that this doesn't affect me as much. But there's no way that'll happen.
There's no way. There's no way. What I predict they're going to do with this Secret Wars, the movie of this upcoming one, is what the most recent comic iteration did, which I've been rereading.
Whoa!
In light of recent news,
you buy that in our affiliate.
Yeah, our affiliate, Amazon affiliate link.
We'll each get 150 million. Well, all three of us will get.
Yeah, we'll have to split it.
Each purchase though. So
they're pretty. It's an expensive comic, but totally. But with that, what they do in that world or in that comic is they do something called Battle World, where Doom is God Emperor Doom, and he is literally God. Everyone calls him God, and it's sick. It's awesome. So the world is basically the multiverse of Marvel Comics has all converged into one planet. So there's the Ultimate Universe, there's zombies, there's Age of Apocalypse, there's Mr. Sinister, there's normal MCU, there's Doom Planet, Galactus is there. It's really cool. It's kind of divided into sections. Different people are the governors, and Doom is God. And
this is also where Marvel Contest of Champions, the app, takes place.
Is that really? I've never played that app.
World. The premise of it is Secret Wars, where
it's Secret Wars. Oh, that's
you're being
fun.
Put through being forced to fight all of the different heroes and villains against each other.
Nice. Yeah,
use promo code ManCave to get the Iron Spider skin for Iron Man.
Iron Spider skin. Well, it also has the Deadpool and Wolverine skins, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And
on our code.
On our code.
That's the only
they had to give us 3. We each got to choose one.
It's the Man Cave Movie Night exclusive skin where only if you use our code you can get those, and no other way are they available. In the game.
It's so sick. It's so sick.
The Man Cave Battle Pass.
And the original Secret Wars comic book, not a lot of people liked, just because it was basically an event. What can we do to put all the Marvel characters together and sell some toys? And I don't know. It's been a long time since I've read it, so I can't speak as much to that one. The new run though from 2015, awesome. I'm really excited that I hope, I mean they've done so many Marvel movies that are named after a comic run, but not really based on it, that I doubt they're going to take a lot from it, but probably something for sure, especially with Doom. And so yeah, I mean, we'll see. I have a prediction for the Fantastic Four movie that I don't even want to say because I'm almost certain it's just correct, and I don't want to spoil it. Just because I'm like,
Thanks, man.
I'm pretty sure this is what's gonna happen. It's not even like based off of leaks. It's just based off of the context of what they've said is happening. I don't want to plant that seed in someone's mind, and then they watch the movie in a year and they're like, oh, exactly what he said was going to happen happens.
Yeah. Lucas has the same amount of confidence as he has in Lego set rumors.
Yes. Yeah.
He's like,
it's true unless it's made up.
Unless it's made up,
unless someone made it up.
Yeah.
Another thing though is that the Russos, I think historically, especially with Infinity War, like you brought up that there are a lot of Marvel movies with the name of comics that don't actually connect that much to the comics. Infinity War, they did a very good job and a very clever job of repurposing tons of moments from the Infinity War comic book, from the Infinity Gauntlet comic book.
Yeah. But, and that's not to say that they haven't adapted them well.
A new thing. Well, yeah, like for sure. But
it's a little clickbait.
It is. It totally. I mean, Age of Ultron, totally different from the comics.
I would say,
but it's a cool title, so it's like,
compared to Age of Ultron, if you had read the Age of Ultron comics and then seen the movie, you would have been like, "What? That's not the same thing."
You would have been like, "Where's Invisible Woman and Wolverine, the main characters?"
This one, if you read Secret Wars, I can almost guarantee that it will deepen the experience for you.
Yeah, totally.
And make it a more exciting viewing experience. Like in Infinity War, when he's at his farm at the end and there's his armor on the Scarecrow thing, that's like a very poignant shot from the comics, and they included it in the thing. And it's just like totally recontextualized from how they have it in the comic, but it's thrilling to see, so
totally.
Whatever happens, I think they're going to do a lot to kind of honor the book.
Yeah,
I think
for
so.
sure. Well, Jared, let's hear your piece as well.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same as you guys. Like, I don't want to retread new ground or the same ground. But I will say I think Marvel is very aware that their stuff has sucked.
Yeah,
I think they're especially with what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
but I think they're very aware of that, and I think and I hope that they're really trying to double down and making it the best that it can be.
Yeah.
Like the interviews with the Russo brothers about getting the script right for Endgame and Infinity War, and just how long of a process that was, and how many people like who really cared were involved, getting the voice right for all the different characters and the different, movies that join together. I don't really want to see all the movies they've been making join together, because that, if it's just the sum of its parts, it's still bad. But my hope is, with those creative leads, with a talented Robert Downey Jr., who I've never seen in a role where I've been like, but I also haven't watched like
Doolittle,
Well,
but honestly, like, Sherlock and Oppenheimer, he's a great actor. He genuinely is. So it's like,
I feel like he shows up, he works, he does his job and he does it well. And so, assuming that they can get the pieces right, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, totally. Same writer as Infinity War and Endgame as well, which is good news too. So it's like very much the same team, and a little bit of it is desperation, maybe, but also it's like if it works, it works. Yeah. The Marvel movies have always been formulaic, and if they try and push against that formula too much, they get stuff that just hasn't been nearly as interesting. And so, yeah, it'll be cool to see what they do with this stuff for sure.
Well, all of that to say, I think our podcast has suffered a little bit recently, right? It's just been trending down for a while, and it's kind of been unspoken. Everyone's thinking it. Yeah. And so it's time for a return to form. You know, Lucas, if you would go ahead and give us that quote again.
Oh yeah, the you couldn't live with your failures, so where did it bring you? Back to me.
And I'm gonna need Niall, if you would take off your mask.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Niall is back.
Niall
the original
back on the
Niall.
podcast.
However, I'm not
recipe?
playing Niall. I'm the original Niall, but I will be portraying Bile.
He's going to Niall originally is going to be playing Bile, who will be a new villain of the podcast. We're excited for this launch, and we hope you'll stick with us for the big Bile plot that will come out in 2 years, and it'll be a two-parter, and then we'll have a second part in the next year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
But for now, let's hit you with the intro to this episode. Welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night. This is the real episode now, and we're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. Two great characters and probably the best that we've seen them, I think. Like, as far as the characters themselves go, like, really, come on. It's what we loved from the Fox stuff, but with a Marvel budget. Like, that's exactly what
Marvel
I want from
budget,
a Marvel
movie. Audience.
Yeah.
Marvel marketing.
So, this is going to be kind of like a discussion episode, one where we will, there's not really 3 guiding questions, but we'll be asking questions throughout and just kind of getting each other's thoughts. We're going to do spoiler free initially, and then we'll probably want to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, obviously.
Because there's so much.
We're going to go so nuts with those spoilers. You guys aren't even going to believe it.
Yeah, if you've listened to 20 something episodes or minutes of this episode, and you're like, all right, now let's listen to a full spoiler free episode. Boom.
Not
spoiler
off
free. Now.
So sorry to burst your bubble, but
don't hop off yet. But you will be hopping off.
You've wasted all the time up until now. We're going to give you some time not wasted, and then we'll tell you to get out of here. So let's start spoiler free. What did we think, boys?
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. 1 out of 10. Hated it. Actually, sorry. I remember my new character trait is whatever Niall says, I have to agree with. So
that's an awesome trait. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like it too.
I didn't like it at all. I'm agreeing with what Lucas says.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Well, no, what I will say is.
Oh, he's joking. Then I was joking.
I was joking.
Okay.
That was a joke that I was saying earlier.
Oh, nice.
I loved it.
Sweet.
So
I
much.
loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was no like Winter Soldier or Infinity War, obviously, in terms of like the plot. There was a point in the movie where I genuinely was like, is this what the movie is gonna be? Like, is this like, and I was just like, this just is a weird plot for this movie to be. But man, with a character like Deadpool and with Deadpool and Wolverine, truly it's one of those times where the plot is just a vehicle for you to see them interacting with each other as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they delivered so well. Not only that, but spoiler free, you get to see some exciting familiar faces in a way. I had some predictions of who I was going to see, and I was shocked about who I actually saw. But in a way that didn't feel like it disrupted the integrity of the movie. Also, because they can just get away with cameos easier because of the way that Deadpool works.
And
multiverse and all of that. But I was genuinely kind of like, any other movie, and this would feel so cheap and just like, just give us it. Well, honestly, like Multiverse of Madness, like it kind of had the same thing, but it felt a little bit just like, okay, you're just showing this because you feel like it will be popular. But with Deadpool and Wolverine, it feels like it fits into the context of what's going on. And I don't know. The whole thing was just so much fun. A lot of heart to it. It was one of the things that I love about Ryan Reynolds' approach to Deadpool is that while it is funny and goofy and silly the whole time, it's very clearly important to him that there's still a heart to the character and that the character isn't just some like anarchist that doesn't care about anything and everything's just a joke, but that like the character actually wants to be a good hero, you know? And I thought that theme in this movie of kind of trying to overcome who he is to become the hero that he wants to be. It's really an awesome theme and a cool arc for him. Obviously, Wolverine has an amazing arc through this movie, but Deadpool's arc is really good and really interesting.
Yeah.
So overall, I thought that it was just the best time, and I would love to like this is one of the only movies since No Way Home where I'm like, yeah, I want to watch that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lucas, what do you think?
I did love it. I similarly, like, the plot is nothing special. It is no perfect
Okay, so you're
film.
copying me.
That's what he does.
Yeah, that's the main
Oh,
thing.
right.
That's the main thing I do now.
Forgot.
Remember? But I will say, like, I still had fun with it. Like, my grievances with it are so minor and stupid. Like, yeah, it's another Marvel movie, but I love Wolverine and I love Deadpool. I mean, I'm not the hugest Deadpool fan in the world, but I really enjoy the other two movies. And I love the X-Men in particular. So we got some good context to all that stuff. I honestly thought Cassandra Nova as a villain and the whole TVA aspect to it was interesting. Like it wasn't great, but again, they had to do something to make sense of all this stuff. And the TVA, I think, was what made the most sense for getting Deadpool back in or into this context. There are a few specific things that I would have changed that we'll talk about in spoilers, but overall there's some really cool stuff they did with this, and I am extremely enthused with how it turned out. And obviously Wolverine, man, that costume. Just perfect. I mean, Deadpool's costume is great too, but Wolverine's we've just never gotten like that, and it's just perfect.
And the way they made the costume part of the story, dude.
So cool. I loved it. That integration it was really, really awesome.
It made it feel like that costume because they talked about it a lot. And up until they kind of brought it into the story, I was like, all right, yeah, we get it. Like he's in the costume. But then
it was like, oh, okay.
Plot thing. And it
was great. Like I thought it worked really well.
Yeah. My thoughts. Look, guys, the plot was nothing special, nothing to write home about. But overall, I really liked it.
Nice.
Wow.
And I liked the characters.
Wow. We got to get you on one of those like variety roundtables or THR roundtables.
Well, maybe I just need to not go last.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
When we all have very, I guess.
Well, when we pivot, you can lead us from spoiler free into spoilers.
Okay.
So you just keep talking.
Yeah. Well, if you have not seen this movie and you're a fan of Marvel, and especially decently familiar with the trajectory and the path of Fox moving into the MCU and kind of having a familiarity with characters and just discussions around the Marvel space, I think you're gonna have such a blast with this movie. Even if you're not, there's just plenty of really good jokes, and it's definitely a worthwhile watch, I think. Is it my favorite Marvel movie? Probably
Yes.
not. But was it like a 5-star time with the boys?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Experience-wise,
absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
And it's been a while. I honestly think the last time I had a 5-star, like truly 5-star experience with Marvel was Endgame. And so I am very happy
because that guy in No Way Home who was
because of that guy with No Way Home. And even on my
cool.
subsequent watch, it wasn't as good as it would have been.
Yeah.
If you want to hear my story, go listen to our No Way Home
episode from almost.
Or listen right now because he's going to tell the whole thing again.
Yeah.
There I was. So yeah, those are non-spoiler thoughts. This is official spoiler warning.
Woo, woo.
I will.
I think the premise of this movie basically being Deadpool's universe is being destroyed because their last big successful property is dead, and now everything's going away, and it's his job now. Like he's being recruited into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's going to leave all of that behind, and then having him go into the world of misfit toys kind of vibe, the place where all the lost destroyed properties went when Marvel took over, is so clever and so fun.
Yeah.
Now, it's just a great and fitting backdrop that's very meta, which makes sense for Deadpool. It also takes the parts of the MCU that's been, the driving force for this horrible phase, um, like in integrating it in such a
Horrible?
good.
What?
Hmm?
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a spoiler. I No, we did our spoiler warning. Yeah, okay. As
So
a
it is
spoiler,
horrible?
Marvel sucks now. But there's
Oh,
some good stuff. There's some good stuff.
okay.
I thought that was all
Agatha?
Agatha. That was the big twist in this one. It was Agatha all
It
along.
was Agatha all along. I love how
Deadpool takes his
Marvel has
mask off. He's like,
ended
it's me,
every movie with
Agatha.
it being Agatha
Yeah.
since WandaVision came out. That's a really cool choice.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I think the first, I guess, spoiler I'll say is there is a line in this movie where Deadpool welcomes Wolverine into the MCU and says, "You're coming in at a low point."
Yeah.
And the fact that that came out of a Marvel movie was
Yeah.
so just refreshing. This they understand,
They get
or
it.
at least
Or at least
that was
they're
approved by
letting Ryan
Marvel.
Reynolds say it.
say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, they're
They say
letting
it
him
again
say,
later too.
yeah, I don't know. I
It's
think
been steadily great since
Since
Endgame.
Endgame, yeah. It's
Yeah.
what Nice Tool says.
Which is
Yeah.
the name of one of the songs of the original soundtrack. I don't know if you've looked it up, but there's a track called Steadily Great Since Endgame.
That's
That's
awesome. That's
hilarious.
so great. Um, but yeah, I think just the acknowledgement, the meta, it all works so well. The only character it works with is Deadpool. And I think the
100%.
only iteration of Deadpool that I want to see, honestly, is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's just it's so perfect. It works so well. The chemistry between him and Wolverine is so good. We got some really good surprise cameos. We've got some great fight scenes. I think honestly my favorite
Oh, dude, yeah.
moment was when Wolverine went on all fours and was galloping
So
towards
Dude,
him
that was
in their
sick. And he
one-on-one. It was
spins at him.
freaking
That was
yeah, it was
incredible.
it was like Marvel versus Capcom. It was
Yeah,
so
dude.
cool.
Big time.
It felt like this team understands the characters, understands what audiences love about them. Yeah, it's some fan service, but we're the fans. We want service us, especially in this kind of movie.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so I think those are my main thoughts. And then the other thing is just soundtrack was so good.
It worked well.
It's
It
so
worked
well
so well.
utilized.
The Madonna song,
the Madonna
perfect.
song, Bye 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 at the
with
beginning
him.
was
Oh yeah.
The Bye Bye Bye
what a
dance was
strong
incredible.
start.
Yeah.
So good. The only change that I would have made is the Honda Odyssey fight.
Yeah.
I would have had the majority of that fight be set to The Greatest Showman.
Oh yeah.
This is the
And not
greatest
just it was
show.
so
They only
quick.
had it. They had this tiny little peek through of The Greatest Showman, and I'm like, just give us a little more of that at least, because that song with them just murdering each other
over and over and over
would have been
again.
so funny. But
Is
I also get it because it probably would have been more distracting than whatever ended up actually playing, which I get.
yeah. But what is The Greatest Showman Disney? Oh, I don't think so, is it?
So.
I don't think
think
so.
it's Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Excuse the keyboard clacking, but I'm gonna look it up.
I wonder if
It might have been Fox, but I don't think so.
I don't know. I wonder
I
if
think it is Warner Brothers.
it could have also been expensive.
Maybe it's
But I
some
guess
Lions
just that one joke was probably
It is 20th
the
Century
same
Fox.
cost.
Oh,
well,
interesting. So
there
they
you
own
go.
it. They own it now.
They own it. They should
Yeah.
have just ran with it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
they also had a Deadpool in The Greatest Showman outfit at the end with all
Oh,
of
did
the
they?
Oh,
with
I
the
didn't
top
catch
hat
that.
and the jacket and vest and everything.
Oh,
It's
That
pretty
makes
funny.
sense.
that is good.
Pretty
Yeah.
funny.
I think it ran a little long, just like in general, just like they're a little bit long. I would have cut
Mhm.
out maybe, honestly, I think the part I would skip, and I hate to say it, is the Honda Odyssey fight scene. It's so cool, but we just got another one-on-one fight scene that it
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
a little redundant. It felt
It
like if there was anything to cut, you could just cut that scene out.
Yeah.
it is a little long. I'd agree.
I
It
The
was
love
scene,
his reference of it though. He's like,
yeah.
Deadpool looks at the camera. He's like, "We're nearing the end. We're wrapping it up. Stay
Yeah,
with
home
us for a
stretch, folks.
little
yeah,
bit."
yeah, I did like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
So
like,
funny.
right as I started feeling that way, he
He
told me,
referenced it.
he's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're almost there," and I was like, "All right, yeah, let's
Yeah.
keep it going."
It truly was rejuvenating.
Yeah.
Like,
So
that was
that's
funny.
I guess the spoiler stuff I wanted to talk about. If you guys, I'm leaving some stuff for you
Sure.
Some
No,
stuff
I
to yap.
appreciate it.
because
The
I know how it
one,
feels to.
yeah, to not have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
That's very considerate of you. I'll learn nothing from this experience.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Lucas, you
Niall.
started bapping.
I
No, I'm
love to.
turning it to you.
All right, cool. So my couple things that I would have changed that I had mentioned earlier. Um, like the scene of Deadpool in the MCU talking to Happy Hogan, as that scene, I was just like the whole time I was like, well, I cannot wait for this to be over. I just was not
Sure.
really into it. Like Happy
Yeah.
Hogan as a character is like, he's fine, but like, I don't know, he's kind of becoming the Nick Fury. Like if he had been talking to Nick Fury, that would have been way better.
Yeah.
There's basically
Way
any other
expensive.
Marvel
Way
character
expensive.
that, well, dude, John
This
Favreau
movie
was
was
like,
expensive
this
already.
movie was expensive, and John Favreau was like sixth build, just below the main
Really?
characters
No
for that one
way.
scene. And so I'm like,
Wow.
why spend the money on a character that people know but they don't really care about? Like
Yeah.
Marvel really wants us to care about Happy Hogan, but it's like he's not Nick Fury.
Yeah,
Nick Fury would have been great.
I'm gonna disagree
RDJ
big
was
time
alive.
with you there.
I don't know.
I think that
I just don't care very much about him.
John Favreau brings back phase
John
one
Favreau, for sure, yeah.
feeling to
He
me.
himself. But
Well,
yeah.
but what I'm saying is he is Happy Hogan, so
Yeah, no. I mean like the character I just
Yeah.
don't care about.
I understand and appreciate your point and fully disagree with it because that
Yeah.
scene was a treat for me.
Hmm.
And also it set up 90% of the emotional core of Deadpool's
Of
journey.
his thing, yeah.
That's
And yeah, it was, I
And
don't
it
know.
wouldn't have had the same effect if he was just meeting with some intern, you know.
No,
Sure.
totally. Yeah, it had to be a
Like, it
named
had to
character,
be-
obviously.
Right.
It couldn't just be faceless, shield
Yeah.
agent or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I think
there are different
I'll throw
options, I
my
think.
2 cents about Happy. I just don't think I take him seriously within the
Yeah.
MCU. Right?
He's
Like
not a.
they don't really give you a ton of reason. Like he's played mostly for jokes and
And that scene is all
just
jokes.
within the Spider-Man universe and stuff, and being somewhat like the person who takes over Tony Stark's business and the Avengers Tower
Even War
sale
Machine
stuff.
He would have been sick. Like basically
But
any
you can't
named
do
character.
anything with him anymore because Secret Invasion ruined War
Yeah,
Machine.
that's gonna be
Uh-oh.
forgotten. That's gonna be
Yeah.
totally.
Hey, they could have made a
disregarded.
joke about it.
They could have,
Yeah.
yeah, they could have. And that was the thing, is it's like, yeah, he's making fun of Happy Hogan's role, which was fun, like it worked. But again, if you're establishing the emotional core, and they do this well in this movie, they have beats where it's like there's no jokes, like it's just serious.
Yeah.
Like with Wolverine, he just works so well as the straight man to Deadpool's silly guy.
Yeah.
And so that duo just was so consistently good the whole way through. The other thing, well, honestly, I kind of had a grievance with this the first time more so than the second time watching it. Is when Wolverine is talking about his backstory, and it's just like, one day humans killed the X-Men. It's like, okay, like that's like, I get it, but then he's like, but then I just started killing everyone, and I found them and hunted them and killed them and then killed a ton of other people. So it's like that context of it I like. In the comics, like this is kind of based on like Old Man Logan. He's the one who kills all the X-Men unintentionally, and that is why he doesn't like use his claws or anything. Maybe a little bit too grim for this, but or just like any hero team, just be like, yeah, I killed every single one of my friends.
Right.
But you know, I didn't mind it as much the second time through.
Well, also, it feels to me like he just mentions this thing of like humans came and killed all of the people. And it feels like almost like Helm's Deep in the book versus Helm's
Oh,
Deep in the
sure.
movie,
Yeah.
where it's like he's saying this thing and it's a
Yeah, that's
drastic
fair.
oversimplification, but
Of
there's
a thing.
probably some really cool stuff there. Maybe even some stuff that was like shot that didn't end up in the movie or whatever. Not
I
necessarily, but
doubt that.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like there's more to it that is just isn't there.
Yeah,
That
obviously I can't. Yeah.
I have to just like force myself to like imagine it's like the Genosha scene from X-Men 97, you know, something like that. That's
Something like
like
that.
super dramatic because the way that it is explained, I totally agree with you, is just kind of like, and then they died. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
basically like a watered down version of what happens in Logan, which is the same
yeah,
thing, but Professor X kills everyone. So it's
right.
like they basically just rehash the same thing with all the X-Men being dead and only Wolverine lived.
Yeah.
But again, it worked. Like whatever. Different context, different Wolverine.
Speaking of different Wolverines, maybe we talk about that scene really
Oh
quick.
man.
Oh yeah.
The
So
montage
good.
recruiting scene.
That
So
was
yeah,
sick. That was
they
so fun.
referenced tons of different famous runs of X-Men, either in his design or in the setting, like him up on the X cross, just in this void of
Of
skeletons.
skulls and
And
yeah,
that's a
blood.
famous cover of an X-Men comic. I can't remember what it's called, but um
Devil's Reign, I think, something like that.
sure. Yeah. And
Cool.
then like there's him in the brown and yellow suit from the
Yes.
him
So
killing
sick,
Hulk.
dude.
That was incredible to see. There's
I love
him
that. I
But
almost
there's
like that
it
him
more
was
than
from
the
what?
him fighting Hulk, where he's wearing the brown and tan suit.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah,
like
yeah.
walks around.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
so freaking sick. And then there was the one
There was short
there was
Wolverine,
comic
height
Short
accurate.
Wolverine, yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
freaking funny.
so good
And that was
and
the first one we
unexpected.
saw.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That
that
was a good
was
segue into the
so
other ones.
funny. There's him with his big hair and the only one hand
Oh yeah, the Age of
from the
Apocalypse. Yeah, that
yeah,
was sick. That was
so
so he's
so
just
cool to see.
mad.
There was Gambler Wolverine, which was really cool that
Yeah, with the
everybody,
patch.
including me, thought was going to be Daniel Radcliffe.
Hmm.
But was
Yeah.
not.
We didn't get Daniel
We
Radcliffe.
didn't get Daniel Radcliffe. However, we did get Cavalrine.
Yeah, which
Uh,
was
and
shocking.
so awesome. And
Crazy.
he had
Honestly, Captain.
lines,
He
dude.
did, yeah.
He straight up
Yeah.
had lines, which
He's so
surprised me.
big. He is so
Yeah.
But
big.
he's enormous and he looked so good. And I loved how his scene, like his setting was just looking at a motorcycle. Like
Yeah.
he was just
Yeah.
in a room with a motorcycle. And then he does
The
the Mission
aura, dude.
Impossible
Aura
punches to get his
Yeah, he
claws out.
1000.
reloads his arms, but he does it
It
with the
was
claws. And
it
then
was
he
awesome.
punches him and he goes flying. Like he doesn't like claw him. He punches him with his claws out and he just goes tumbling through the wall.
It is a cameo that happens early on, and it's kind of the first like cameo, not
Totally.
the Happy Hogan thing, but like of characters that you're like, oh, I wonder who we're gonna see.
Yeah, that was like,
And
whoa.
so it almost for me kind of gets lost in the fact that you see all of these other also insane and really significant cameos later on. But man, Cavalrine, I'm on board, dude.
It
Like
was sick. It was
freaking
really
cast
cool.
him. I love it.
Yeah, with
Uh,
each cameo, I feel like I was getting more and more excited. And it wasn't like it peaked too early and then the movie fizzled out after that. Like partly with uh Multiverse of Madness, which was the last sort of time we've seen this cameo
Best.
shock value,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
having like Mr. Fantastic in that. Like, oh, that was crazy, and then, it fizzled
right.
away, kind of literally. And then, you know, that hype left. But all these characters kept adding to each other and like kept building this world and kept progressing this plot. I guess, half-baked sort of,
Yeah,
or not
whatever.
half-baked, but very just like simple plot.
Yeah. Directional.
Yeah. Did you guys have a favorite? Was it Wolverine?
No. My favorite,
The Gambit.
my favorite was Gambit. And
Gambit.
The reason is that I followed the Gambit movie from its announcement at Comic-Con to its death in 2019.
Yeah.
And the whole time I remember tweeting at Marvel Studios like, if you're having trouble finding a director, let me direct it. Like, just give it to someone, let it happen, you know. No, I put that out when that was in
16,
junior
17.
high school. But,
whoa, yeah.
But
nice.
That
and they didn't
news
take you
had
up
been
on
around
it?
for they did, but
you've been kind of gone on like long vacations.
Yeah,
to Toronto of all places.
We had a couple
of meetings. What are you
meetings.
doing up there?
We had to part for creative differences because they wanted to go one way, I wanted to go a different way. They didn't want Channing, and I did. It was kind of a thing.
And you wanted to make the movie, and they didn't want to make the movie. Was also a big creative difference.
And also they kept saying wrong number and hanging up, but I don't know.
That's awesome.
That's frustrating, man.
Yeah, it was, it's all that, corporate red tape you gotta get through. Anyway, Gambit, seeing him in the costume, in just the unabashedly comic accurate costume. And they could just let him loose with his crazy accent. That was so funny. And I'm sure I know that I'm going to see a bunch of people online that are like, oh, see, Channing Tatum would have been bad, whatever, blah, blah, blah. His accent was terrible. And I'm like, you saw him in a comedy movie where they're making fun of him and the character. Like, I'm sure that had he been in the Gambit movie, they would have done it differently, you know?
Yeah.
But the accent was so funny to me. And
they played it up like crazy.
I did not see him in this, like I did not even have that as a thought in my head until the card comes on screen, and immediately I was like, of course, why wouldn't he be on the list of people to show up in this? But yeah, I fully lost my mind when he showed up.
So Lucas, that was your favorite too?
Yeah, well, I love Gambit, and I love that he was just like the butt of a joke the whole time. He was like, oh, they call you the Gambit, or do you just want them to? And it never quite worked out.
Some of us never even got the chance to save our world.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think he even mentions like, I think I was born here. You know, like when they're like, how were you guys sent here? Like it never existed in the first place. So funny.
That's another thing about this whole movie is it's like there are so many levels of context to some of these jokes, some of which I didn't even pick up on. Like when he talks about, he's like, yeah, he's really let himself go since the divorce. Hugh Jackman got divorced in real life a couple of years ago, or like just last year. And I was like, I didn't realize that.
From like a 30-year marriage.
From a long marriage. And there's just all basically every joke is in reference to something, whether it's in the MCU or some behind the scenes Fox or Disney or real life events. Also, I did not know this because I've never seen Gossip Girl. He's like 208. If I'm watching Gossip Girl, Blake Lively is in that. You know, stuff like that. It's just fun, like,
and she's in
levels, and she is in this. Her voice,
her body. But there is also another joke that has another layer to it that I don't even think was intended when it was filmed. But the blade, there's only one blade. There will only ever be one.
Yeah, that was kind of a shocking line.
It's a hilarious line because Blade says it, and I think at first when they filmed it, I think it was a reference to the fact that they are currently making a Blade.
Yeah. So it's
like, however, now it comes off as that movie's never going to come out. And I'm going to be the only Blade. And it's crazy how that joke, it makes me marvel at the concept of comedy, that joke with two totally different situations surrounding it is equally funny.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is it's already not true because there has been more than one Blade. There was a fourth Blade movie with not Wesley Snipes, and there was a TV show. So it's already inaccurate.
That fourth movie existed.
You've never seen Blade House of Chthon?
That's also a that's another level to it.
Yeah. There's
you just don't even remember the others.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Also, actually, Johnny Storm's cameo, dude.
That was sick. That was so fun.
Incredible.
I loved that.
And I did, to be fair, that was the one going into the movie that I was like, I can almost guarantee that Chris Evans is going to be in this movie as Johnny Storm. I just felt it because
they're buddies, Ryan Reynolds and Chris Evans. It's like it would just be too fun an opportunity to pass up.
Yeah, totally.
And it gets liquefied.
I didn't know. I didn't even think about it. He showed up. I was like, Captain America, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
They just got rid of this guy and now he's back. And, I was kind of shocked that he would come back to return a flame on. Oh my God. Of course.
It was awesome. And I loved that they didn't try to renew the way that Johnny Storm worked. I'm sure that they will in the next Fantastic Four movie. But in this one, it looked like they used the exact same approach they used in the 2000s, just with upgraded CGI. He looks exactly the same in his flame on form. And
he did. Awesome. I've seen screenshots of the old movie. He looks the same. Yeah, they just translated that over.
It was so
I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of him. But
he was
between the time he was on screen and the payoff of the joke in the credits,
so hilarious.
A joke that you don't even think is a joke being set up.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah.
It's such a sneaky and cleverly written joke.
It's like one of the best post credits.
It was so awesome.
And also his death, where she skins him and he falls into a pile of muscle and bone, and then later on they're asking if he's dead, and Deadpool's like, we don't know that he's dead. He could have survived. He just turns into a pile of gore on the
just liquid.
It
was more than I expected. All these quote unquote cameos save Henry Cavill were roles. They were actual speaking parts, and they were there for more than one scene. They contributed
the heroes.
Exactly. It was really cool to see. All four, and I loved the joke about or just the context of we've been here a while. Daredevil and Punisher were here, and Magneto, and they all died. And he's like, oh no, I'm so sorry. It's
funny.
She's like, it's fine. Again, funny context, because Daredevil, Ben Affleck, married to Jennifer Garner in real life, now they're divorced. There's all these levels that it's just so funny. And then Blade, of course, was so awesome. The ice skating uphill line is a rehash of a line from Blade 1. X-23 was great to see again.
And she was great. And when she put those glasses on before they fought, I
loved that. I thought that was so fun.
So perfect.
I thought that was awesome.
That was great.
We kind of touched on this briefly, but Jared mentioned it. I love the concept of the anchor being, with Logan being that anchor being, and people are now theorizing, who's the MCU's anchor being? Was it Iron Man? Is it Wanda?
Here's the thing.
It Spider-Man? I love the just discussion around that. I think it's a fun concept.
I have a problem with the concept of an anchor being, because in order for an anchor being to make sense, doesn't it have to be an immortal character?
Yeah.
I
guess
it's not supposed to die.
Well, I guess unless it's the sacred timeline. So maybe there isn't one for the sacred timeline, or
maybe.
But I think all the branches.
But it's Wolverine dying is okay, it's not that
he's kind of immortal,
supposed to die.
Well,
he's immortal, so it makes sense for him. But for every universe to have an anchor being, it's kind of
it's just always
Wolverine. Are they all Celestials or Galactus or something like that?
And he also is usually it takes thousands of years, so it's okay, that's a perfectly easy line to just say this kind of fixes that plot hole for now. We'll get around to that.
I had forgotten that line, honestly, so that that helps. But it's such a dumb nitpicky thing that doesn't affect my enjoyment of the movie at all, but it does kind of make me think so some dude lives for 75 years and then dies of a heart attack, and then the entire universe collapses.
Or starts to collapse.
Just don't know. But yeah, you're right. Starts to collapse. That's
the context of, well, first of all, it didn't end up dying too, which was great. They were like, oh yeah, cool, you guys can go back to your world. So it doesn't even end with them in the MCU. They're still in a multiverse.
Very surprised that they stayed in
that
Deadpool's world.
Yeah. The timeline again is so messed up because it's in the world of Logan, but Logan takes place in the future, but Deadpool takes place, mid 2010s ish, and then it jumps forward. So, there's a couple year gap, whatever.
But if you can travel between universes, you can travel between time too.
Yeah, and the X-Men timeline has always been so convoluted.
It's so messy that who cares?
Also,
genuinely, who cares?
The fact, it's so nonsense at this point. But the fact that X-23 ended up back on her world, what I assume is her world, because we assume that's the same X-23, or at least I was. Hopefully, those other three characters, Elektra, Blade, and Gambit, got back to their respective worlds. Maybe they'll show up in Secret Wars.
Gambit definitely didn't.
Yeah, Gambit has no world to return to.
He just opened a door to
it's just
the same desert.
Here's Corin I wanted to talk about briefly.
That was great. I like Cassandra Nova.
I thought she was great. I thought that they did a very good job of explaining her character and her backstory briefly. Without like doing this whole backstory thing, but in a way that genuinely made you understand her character, and like at least to the point that you needed to understand her, and then the design of her just putting her hands into people's heads,
really effective.
So cool.
Creepy.
Like I thought that was awesome. I just wanted to make sure that we at least brought up her performance in this, because she was so good. I thought
Cassandra Nova,
I could have gone for a movie where she was a bigger deal and was like really present for all of it, like in a kind of a Magneto type role, because her performance was just awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the way they kind of set her up is very in line with just how they were setting up the movie. Because clearly, I don't think she could be at the power level she was in any other sort of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they would have had to scale her way down instead of just being able to rip the skin off of somebody immediately.
Or have her in the same movie as Professor X, where they are X and Magneto style, which I would love to see.
Make her the Frieza versus Goku, and then have other little fights going on or something like that.
But I do totally agree with you, where it's kind of like she is like almost like Thanos level power.
She's incredibly powerful.
She can just kind of kill anyone with a thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And kind of the point is she's villain, and this is who she is in the world. And she's going to do some villain stuff, and you're going to stop her in an unconventional way.
Yep. I like the
power of friendship.
Sequester to the void and all that. Works.
Yeah. The other thing that I really appreciate about the approach with Cassandra Nova versus the approach with any other villain that Marvel introduces is Cassandra Nova has some key stuff explaining why she is who she is, and other characters that you need to understand and know about in order to understand her and her motivation and who she is. Other Marvel movies would have gone in and drastically changed that stuff to make it make sense with characters that have already been introduced, so that you can contextualize it. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it doesn't work
Marvel's
at all.
Worked really well.
Marvel's worked really well. Shang-Chi with Wenwu didn't work at all. In this movie, I loved that they were just like, she's Professor X's sister, even though we haven't seen this Professor X. We don't know who it is. We don't know the version of whatever. We don't even know what world she came from, and it doesn't matter. They're just like, this is who she is. Professor X isn't even part of this story. That doesn't mean that she can't be here. Like, not everything has to be tied up with a perfect bow where
everything is fully explained and you see every piece of it. Yeah.
It can just be like, I'm pissed off because my brother, Professor X, who you all know a version of out there somewhere, did this thing. You get his general ideals, so you understand my general ideals being opposed to that.
Yeah.
And it was a breath of fresh air for them to just say, this is who she is.
Villain bad.
The same person she is in the comics. We're just going to tell you a little bit about it. Not everything has to be explicitly put into place. It's just Professor X's, So
just a quick question for comic nerds. So Professor X, famously bald. Was that a style choice? Is that something about his powers that makes his hair fall out?
I think they might have contextualized it to make it. Oh, he went bald because of something with powers, but
his brain got just a bald man that it plugged up his follicles.
In the comics.
Okay, I was just wondering, like,
Professor X canonically does not have a skull because his brain kind of burst past his skull, and so they removed it out of the bottom of his neck, and his brain just pushes against his skin,
and so his hair whole just head is
pushed
right out.
Yeah,
it pushed all of his hair out.
Okay, because I was just wondering, like, yeah, she's his sister. But does she also need to be bald to be his sister? I mean, I get aesthetically, she also matches, which is good. But I don't know if there's a genetic.
She's bald in the comics as well, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must just be one of those.
She's gnarly looking in the. She's like because basically the context of her character in the comics is so.
Look it up.
Professor X tries to kill her in the womb, and is somewhat successful. Blasts because they're twins. Blasts her out of the womb, and then her like cells grow along like on this in the sewer basically, and so she's just like she's a yucky looking character.
She is pretty yucky.
She's like old and gnarly and.
Oh, I'm seeing a frame from a comic book that looks very similar to what her hands do in the movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure
this guy's head. That's
I see two babies duking it out.
Yeah, that's the panel. Yep, that's the one. That's Professor X and Cassandra Nova in the womb.
So sick.
It's not very Professor X of him.
Yeah, but
he recognized that she was destined to be evil, and he was.
Oh,
that's
and they were bold in that frame.
Yeah, so that's what kept
they're bold there, so they probably were like,
so
they should be bold.
They should just be always bald.
No, yeah, I do think that it is just to be like a visual identifier of like, yeah, she's related to Professor X.
Oh, and it works.
That's okay.
The bald guy. Yeah, I would love to see some of these characters return, like Deadpool and Wolverine. I think we're almost guaranteed to have show up in Secret Wars. But I would love, because here's the thing. Marvel really has not had like a huge hit of in-context Earth heroes since Endgame. Guardians I thought was awesome. I loved Guardians, but they don't even interact with any of the other characters. Spider-Man No Way Home, multiverse. This, multiverse. So I would love for Avengers Doomsday to be mostly, hey, here's these characters, the ones that are left over from Endgame that we've been giving you endless hours of content. Let's do a movie with them first. Dr. Doom is the villain. Yeah, he's definitely kind of going to come in from multiverse. Here's the context of them fighting this multiversal threat. Maybe the Fantastic Four assist them with that. And then Secret Wars is they do an Infinity War game type thing where somehow the Earth's Avengers are neutralized or temporarily killed or something. And then so in Secret Wars, we have to have Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and all these other characters. It's a
no longer Robert
Downey
Jr.'s Iron Man.
Yeah, no. Well, I would not be. They could do it.
They could parent trap him.
Don't.
I feel like that is something that absolutely could happen or may happen. Is just Iron Man versus Dr. Doom, and it's the same person. And it's just like. This decision, again, to bring it back to the beginning, just for this brief moment, is either the dumbest decision, worst idea ever, going to be terrible, or crazy 4D chess move that's just going to be the coolest thing ever, and we just have to wait to see it. So hopefully the latter, but
context of this movie. From a marketing perspective, we're all talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they got people talking about Marvel.
It's the most buzz that Marvel has had forever.
All
it's not
this
immediately coming out,
All this week, yeah.
But
no one has known or cared about any of the crap.
The one thing, I forgot to say this at the beginning, so I'm going to say it now. The one thing that gives me hope about that casting choice is the fact that Robert Downey Jr. has been so precious and protective of the Iron Man role and said so many times, like, I'm not coming back as Iron Man. Like, that is the end of that character. It's important to me that that character is done. So it gives me hope that it's like, he wouldn't have agreed to it, hopefully, unless it was something
really cool. Like, story,
with, and that works. I'm hoping that that's the case. I'm hoping that it doesn't have anything to do with $100 million paycheck.
Well, it has to have a bit something. It's not nothing. Obviously. It's not, I don't care about that.
On the other side of it, and I know that humans are inherently greedy and you'll always take the chance to have more money, but like Robert Downey Jr. is set up.
No, he does not need it.
True. Another $100 million at this point is just numbers. That's not like, oh, this is going to make it so I can afford this thing. Like, no, he can afford everything. So
but this is Disney. So if he's going to squeeze, he might as well. Right. He can't be like, oh yeah, I'll do it for $15. Like, he's like, you want me back, you're going to pay for me. Even if I'm interested.
But
it's
what
going
I'm
to cost
saying
you.
is, I think that with other actors, I would be a little more concerned about the integrity of the decision.
Yeah.
But with Robert Downey Jr., I feel like there's some actual care for what the story will be before he agrees to do it.
Plus, he wanted out of Iron Man, and he wouldn't come back to these movies unless, again, money and interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got leverage. He's Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest names in all of Hollywood. So,
but MCU or Mads Mikkelsen would have made a great Doom.
There's a lot of
Killian would have been great.
Yeah, there's a lot of actors who would have been amazing.
But on that note, thank you for listening and helping us get our $500,000 paycheck.
This week's $500,000.
$500,000. Again, we have to split it 3 ways. And that isn't always enough to support our lifestyle. So if you would like to donate a little bit extra to the cause, I'll let Niall take over from here while I sing Good Riddance by Green Day. Another turning point for a second road.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the cowl. I just want to quick shout out Wolverine's cowl. It took us 24 years, but man, was it cool.
Oh, the cowl was great.
Loved it. I love that they saved it till the end too. It was just, the context was just awesome.
Perfect.
It was so cool. And he pulls it up and it's just like, yes, man. Oh, so
certainly people get the Good Riddance thing because it's in the credits. And if you listen to all of this, please say you've seen the movie already. Please say you've seen the movie.
You better.
Don't listen to this whole thing without watching
such a beautiful, in memoriam to Fox.
It was a very nice
funeral. It was great. It was a great little, even the fans, Jared, you said it best, the fantastic jump scare got me, bro. that was genuinely like,
so surprising that you showed any of that. Okay, you can support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/mancavemovie-night is a website that you can visit, and you can choose to support the podcast there. $3 a month gets you to shout out my mom, Kel, at the end of every episode. So this week's shout out to Kel comes from Alec Olson, Roan Oberg, Nick Bell, Michael Polonczyk, Easy Law, Britton Inkley, Riley Allen, Ian James Martin, and Hannah Steve. Shout out to Kel. You do not know how much that means to her. If you want to be on that list, you can go to. I hope that this. I'm having such a hard time focusing. If you want to support my mom and the podcast, go to patreon.com/mancavemovie-night, and you can do that there.
And we will see.
Oh, we also do bonus episodes.
Bye.
Yeah, check out our post credits. We talked about the best post-credits Marvel's done. Well, guess what? This is going to be the best post-credits we've done. Go check it out. We'll see you on another Man Cave Movie Night Monday.
And Bazinga.
Bye-bye.